everyone, and welcome back to my booktube channel, Lisa in Bookland, and welcome to a bit of a different location outside my house. As we're lucky enough to have a 4-day weekend in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day, I decided I'd start off a little bit of a vlog. It's currently about 5:45 on St. Patrick's Day. I had a lovely day. We went to the parade in the morning. It was so nice for things to get a little bit back to normal after COVID, because this is the first St. Patrick's Day parade we've had in 3 years. There's a hen in the background. We were lucky with the weather. I'm quite wrapped up now because it's the evening, but there was only a small shower or two of rain throughout the day, so we had a lovely dinner, and now I'm just really going to settle in for an evening of reading. At the moment I'm outside reading The Sunken Road by Kieran McMenamin, which I'm enjoying. It's set in 1922 and it follows this anti-treaty IRA soldier who's on the run, but there's also a lot of flashbacks to his time with a long-time friend of his called Archie in the First World War. This is Frodo, by the way, who's also named after a book character, obviously, as all book lovers do with most of their pets, I'd say. So say hello, Frodo. Frodo. Good boy. So it's now 7:15 and about 30 pages left, and it's just taken a bit of a turn. Still really enjoying it, but I might head inside because it's getting a bit cold. Change of location. I have some scones, some tea and the book, and I'm ready to keep going for the evening. So I just finished The Sunken Road by Kieran McMenamin. The ending of this book was really hard-hitting. So there's 2 timelines in the book. There's a timeline that's set in Northern Ireland in 1922, and this character called Francie, he is part of the IRA, and you know, the War of Independence is finished in the south, but it's still very much going on in the north. So he's in the run from what are called the B Specials, which are kind of the local law enforcement in the north, and then also the British Army as well. And then in parallel with that, told kind of every second chapter, the other timeline is set in 1915 and 1916 in the First World War in France, where Francie did fight with the 36th Ulster Division along with his best friend from home called Archie. Archie is a Protestant. Francie and Archie were friends since childhood. They have a very close friendship. That's really one of the best parts of this book. And there's also Archie's sister Annie, who's part of their trio as well, and she's a great character and has a big role in this book as well. So from the very start of the book, you kind of know that Archie didn't survive the war, but it's not revealed how he died straight away. It's very much kind of told through the second timeline of the book, and that really keeps reading to find out what happened there. And Archie's death obviously had a huge impact on Francie, as did the whole war. There's a lot of Francie dealing with the trauma of that war, but also coming to terms with the things that he's done in Ireland since. I think it does a very good job of kind of showing the kind of scrappy nature of the end of the War of Independence in Ireland, and up north, especially the border. There's kind of this description of this town where the border actually runs halfway through the town, and half of the town is in Northern Ireland and half the town is in what was then the Irish Free State, and just kind of how arbitrary that was. But yeah, as you might be able to tell, there's so much in this book. Like there's the First World War parts, which were excellent, and the description of the war in Ireland. There's the relationship between Archie and Francie, and also Francie and Annie. There's kind of this added element of this kind of personal vendetta that one of Francie's former sergeants from the First World War days, he is now actually stationed in Northern Ireland, so there's obviously a very personal connection there between, I suppose, the 2 timelines, because it is a very violent book. It deals with a lot of serious topics. I think I need something lighter after that, so I'm actually going to pick up The New Policeman by Thompson, which is a children's book and is a reread as well. So this is the book I'm choosing to fill the prompt for the Irish Readathon, to read a children's book. So looking forward to this one, and I think it's going to be quite a quick read, so I'll see how much of it I get through this evening. So before I went to bed, I said I'd just give one final update on The New Policeman, which I've been enjoying so much. I forgot how good this book was. I probably haven't read it for at least 6 or 7 years, and possibly longer. So it kind of reminds me of Natasha Pulley in a way, who I haven't, you know, shut up about the last few videos, but just kind of the quirky nature of it, and so many kind of incongruous things that just keep popping up. How well written it is as well. It's just brilliant. But this book is about a character called JJ. He's from this really musical family called the Liddies, and there's kind of a history in the family about why they are so musical and why that's so important to them. But the big issue in the town where he lives, Kinvara, is there's never enough time for anybody to do anything, like not just in the normal way. It's constantly throughout the book, oh, do you know, is that the time? Or all the characters always saying to each other, do you know, it used to be like this, or it even says the children don't have time to cause mischief, or like that kind of thing, which is just so fun. And then there's this really interesting character, the new policeman himself. The policeman is called Larry Dwyer. He's just a new arrival to the town. He's a really talented fiddle player as well, so he kind of gets pulled into the musical scene in the town when he really should be, you know, throwing people out of pubs at closing time and that. So the Garda is really interesting because he can't, you know, remember his own name sometime, and there's like definitely something going on with him. Kind of just in the last few chapters now we've got into more of the like fantastical element of the book, or kind of the mythology element, which is so interesting and fun. And I just love the contrast between like that section and the other section. Yeah, it's just a brilliant book. I'd love to stay and finish this tonight because it's a very quick read. I'm already I'm already halfway through, but yeah, I'm probably a bit tired. Better go to bed. I'll update you again tomorrow. So it's now Friday, another lovely day, and I just finished The New Policeman, which was absolutely amazing, 10 out of 10, brilliant children's book. And I've also been reading a little bit of the group read, Boys Don't Cry. I'm about 3/4 of the way through and really enjoying it as well for different reasons. It's a very hard-hitting book, as everybody's been saying, but yeah, it's good. So I'll check in again when I finish that one. It's now Friday evening. I had a lovely lunch with a friend, and when I came home I finished the group read for the Irish Readathon, Boys Don't Cry, which was really good. I wouldn't have picked it up ever kind of myself, but it was such a sad book, like everybody said. It's told from the perspective of these two brothers that live in a very poor situation in Dublin, and it's apparent very quickly that one of them, Finn, the younger brother, has a very serious illness, and how his older brother Joe copes with that. And also Joe is involved with some bad people, and kind of shows how hard it is to get out of those kind of knots of poverty. And next, for the prompt to read a book that one of the hosts has already read, I picked up A Ghost in a Trope by Ghríofa, which Aoife has recommended many times from Words of Clover. I'm a chapter in. It's told in a really unusual way. I believe it's kind of autofiction it's described as. It's kind of about this woman, like the author really, who discovers this work called a Quina, so it's like a lament for her lover that was written back in the 1700s, and how she becomes kind of obsessed with this work. It's written in Irish, so she's looking for different kinds of translations and that. So yeah, interested to see where this one would take, and it did win the Irish Book Awards last year. So yeah, interested to see what everybody liked about it. So it's now Saturday morning and I'm out for a bit of a walk. It's not quite as nice today. It's sunny but very windy, so it's a bit too cold to be sitting around reading, which I've enjoyed the last few days. I have about 90 pages left of A Ghost in the Troch by Ghríofa, and I'm really enjoying it. It's not like anything I've read before. Like, it's not explicitly an autobiography, but I'd say there's a lot of elements of the author's life in it. So the narrator, who's never like given a name, it's first person. She has just had her 4th child, so she's at home with the girl and 3 older sons. They're all under 6, so she's a very busy lady, and it's about kind of her day-to-day life, everyday tasks of caring for children. There's a lot about motherhood, but in between all that, I suppose, she starts to become obsessed with this poem, this lament, Quina, it's a real poem that was written by this woman called Evelyn for her husband who was killed, describing how much she loved him and bringing down curses upon the man that killed him. The narrator feels a really strong connection to Evelyn, you know, who is also a mother. It's just really moving. Like, I mean, not only the current day bits, but at some points she kind of addresses the reader directly and gets us to kind of empathise with Evelyn as well, so that was really unusual. It's also a kind of interesting, like in one part she said it was something like she's a very inept detective but she's a devoted servant. Like she's saying that she's not the best person that could be investigating Evelyn's life, but she is really dedicated to it. And she's kind of questioning the way that this Queena has been looked at in the past, and I suppose especially by men, the way that they've interpreted it and said that it mightn't all have been Evelyn's work and that. So it's a brilliant book. I'll see how I get on with the end, but again, I suppose if that's what readathons are great for, readathon prompts, picking up books that you wouldn't necessarily have thought to pick up yourself. So enjoying that one. Next I think I'm going to read The Charnell House, which is a book set in a tuberculosis sanatorium, so I might start that later as well, but we'll see how much more reading I get done today. So all good things must come to an end. It's now Sunday evening and I'm back to work tomorrow, so I did manage to squeeze one final book into this reading weekend, so I said I'd give one final update to round off this vlog, and that is I managed to read this book, The Charnell House by Eamonn McGrath, which was such a good book. I really enjoyed it. It's a historical fiction book that's set in a tuberculosis sanatorium in the 1950s. These were hospitals that were built specifically for TB patients, and the whole book is set in the hospital, or like sometimes they go in an ambulance to go to a different hospital or to go and get an x-ray, and it's really just about the interactions of the patients with each other and with the nurses and doctors that worked there. So you get to see all of those different characters, and there's some great ones in here. So I thought it was interesting that obviously there was the men's wards and women's wards, so you had two kind of casts of characters that never met, apart from sometimes through letters they got to know each other. What I think I knew but kind of forgot about TB at this time was how long that patients would be in these sanatoriums. Like it was really months or years, not weeks, and often they would get better and they would be out in the world for a few months and they'd come back, because that's the way TB is as a disease. What really made this story so impactful for me as well was I just chanced to look up the author before I started the book, and Eamonn McGrath actually spent 3 years in a TB sanatorium himself. He was lucky enough to recover fully and go on to have a career in teaching, but a lot of people didn't. So this is a sad book in some cases, where patients obviously are very sick and they're dealing with hard circumstances. Something again I suppose I'd kind of forgotten was having TB was a massive social stigma on the whole family, so that's dealt with here as well. There are some happy moments for characters, but also some hard moments as well when obviously some patients don't recover. I really enjoyed going through the journey with them. It's a short book, so I read it yesterday evening and most of it today. So although I'd say it was very good on the whole, I suppose I would have a few criticisms of it. It was released in 1990, but the author I think was born in 1929, so I suppose he might have had kind of fairly old-fashioned ideas. There is a gay man in this book, but the portrayal of him is not very good at all. It's not nice. Where Phil did appear, it brought down the tone of those sections a lot. The treatment of women, is very mixed. I didn't like one or two things that he did with women in the book. Yeah, on the whole, I really enjoyed this book. I suppose I do have an interest in kind of a medical history. I liked kind of how there was little bits of medical jargon in this book, and I did have to Google a few things like procedures and that, but I think that's realistic for the book as well, because like all these patients are stuck in a TB hospital for months or years, so they would be well familiar with the terms, and they would be talking to other patients about their condition all the time and how they were progressing and what treatments were being tried. So I thought that was really, really realistic, and just the author having experienced that as well, it really added that air of like verisimilitude. So I would highly recommend trying to find a copy of this book if you're like interested in medical history or like TB in general, because I thought it was a really good study of that. So really enjoyed this book. So on the whole, it was a brilliant reading weekend. I read 5 books in total. I had started 2 of them before the weekend, the long weekend has to be said. But just to summarise, I should have said the Charnell House was filling the prompt of reading a green book. So I read The Sunken Road by Kieran McMenamin, which was filling the prompt to read a book set in Northern Ireland. The New Policeman by Thompson, a brilliant reread which I used to fill the prompt to read a children's book, and A Ghost in the Throat to fill the prompt to read a book that that host has already read. So I also read the group read Boys Don't Cry by Fíona Scarlett, which was great as well, and finally then the Charnell House by Eamonn McGrath. So yeah, I actually can't wait to edit this vlog and see how it came out. I know I probably have a lot of practice to do with vlogging, but it was quite fun just to kind of give more informal updates. I'm just filming on my phone at the moment, so I don't know how those clips will come out, how much background noise there'll be in the outside sections, but sure we'll see anyways. So let me know if you've read any of those books or what you've been reading for the Irish Readathon. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for my next video next Thursday.